Welcome to a Swipe special from the home of British motor racing. We're at Silverstone this week and here's what's coming up on the show.
Chris meets the simulator stars of the racetrack. I sit down with the man they call the Godfather of Virtual Racing.
And our video games reviewer Simon Miller has joined us here too. What are you going to be bringing us this week?
Well, I'm going to be looking at my favourite racing games of all time, including one you definitely won't be expecting.
All right, we're looking forward to that. It's all to come in the next 10 minutes or so. But first, let's get a quick look at the tech stories that made headlines this week.
6 areas across the UK are due to get super-fast, full-fibre broadband. The government's picked Aberdeenshire, West Sussex, Coventry and Warwickshire, Bristol, West Yorkshire and Greater Manchester to trial the speedy 1 gigabit per second network technology. It's claimed nearly a third of British people have used a dating app while in a relationship. Yet more than half of the 2,100 people surveyed by law firm Slater & Gordon said they'd break up with their partner if they found them looking for romance online. Uber and London's black cabs have got fresh competition. Estonian startup Taxify has launched in the capital. It's a fraction of Uber's size but reportedly runs on a lower cost business model, so passengers pay marked down fares and drivers keep a larger share of the profits.
So here we are at the famous Silverstone motor racing circuit, but we're not here to watch physical racing because today's event is virtual. It's the final of the Silverstone qualifying event to find the world's fastest gamer, and it all happens online. The ultimate winner gets a contract with McLaren.
This man is one of the best racers in the world, but chances are you probably won't recognise him. That's because he's more famous for video game racing. In 2013, he beat 900,000 people from around Europe to be crowned the best in a PlayStation competition. The win got him a job racing real cars, and he says there's lots in common between the two.
There's a lot we can learn with the virtual stuff. So usually nowadays, all the simulators use laser scan to scan the tracks, so you can play it on a game, on a simulator, and then when you go for real onto that track, everything is very realistic. From curves to trees, so you can learn the circuit with it. The sensation of driving the car is getting closer and closer to real life.
Tournaments like this one are essentially high-speed job interviews. There's a McLaren contract on offer for the winner of this competition. A quick glance at the footage and you might be forgiven for thinking you're watching the real thing.
Because it's the final, I've got a massive crowd of people.
There's even a makeshift studio set up in the Silverstone garage, complete with pundits and supercar props.
A massive accident into turn 1 involving several cars.
But there's one thing missing, the racers themselves. That's because they're competing from home, which isn't without its downsides.
It's not good when you've got people coming in the room when you're mid-racing and stuff, but it's it's pretty good.
Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever had anyone sort of walk in and kind of bring you a cup of tea or something mid-final?
Yeah, but a few times, yeah. The dog comes in, jumps on your lap, and you don't know what to do. I've had even steering wheels like disconnect mid-race and stuff, you know, and you just don't get that in the real world either.
Malfunctioning equipment aside, the benefits of this setup are that it offers a much cheaper way for people like Graham into the real racing industry.
It started, I sort of grew up doing karting from 7-year-old till about 16, then I moved into cars and I've done a few years doing Formula Ford, was a British Formula Ford champion in 2008 and then I just needed sort of 200 grand to go racing, you know, so it kind of all fell apart there, didn't have the money or sponsors to do it, so I basically just looked for the closest thing possible, you know, and that was basically sim racing online.
And it's not just contracts up for grabs. A recent esports racing tournament in Vegas boasted $1 million prize pool. These figures reflect its growing popularity.
And they're all up into the wall!
If you look at some of the major series that we're already in, the live viewers, and I know that's probably a different demographic, but the live viewers are higher than many real race series. You know, the concurrent viewers, people know the names, they know which countries they're from and all of that. So actually, we're starting to see that the top tier of esport racing is taking over some of the lower tiers of kind of motor racing.
It might be a while before these gamers overtake the likes of Lewis Hamilton to become household names. But it's not unimaginable to think that one day they could catch up. Chris Creegan, Sky News.
Esports is growing all the time, with new tournaments being launched and talk of it being included at the 2024 Olympics. The man behind today's event, the world's fastest gamer competition, is called Darren Cox. But some of the people here refer to him as the Godfather of Virtual Racing. I got to have a chat with him earlier, and I began by asking what's next for the ultimate winner.
The winner of this event here at Silverstone will be one of the 12 finalists that go to Woking at the McLaren Technology Centre in November. And the winner of that event will become a Formula One simulator driver for the McLaren team, which is an amazing job for anybody that's involved in esports.
What will they have to undergo? Is there any rigorous testing or anything like that?
So the event at McLaren will be the toughest job interview these guys have ever faced. But not only that, they'll have fitness challenges, they'll have interviews with the PR guys. This is a real proper job, and McLaren want the best person they can find.
Do esports players have coaches and managers like other regular athletes?
Esports is exploding in all areas, and at the moment things like Dota and League of Legends are the ones that are getting all the attention, but more and more real sports are getting involved. So the NBA, the NFL in America are investing huge amounts of money in esports, and now motor racing is getting in that space. So of course, yes, these guys have now got coaches, they've got managers. In fact, one of the top managers of the team is here tonight to see how his guys get on. So this is really starting to professionalise. One of our finalists here won $220,000 in Las Vegas this year for driving in the virtual world. Would have seemed crazy 5 years ago.
Tell me about the academy that you set up, turning PlayStation players into professional esports athletes.
First thing I did in this space was something called GT Academy, and I just had this really simple idea. Could we take a guy from Gran Turismo on the PlayStation and turn him into a real racing driver? And it was a test, really. And we did it once, and we didn't find a good racing driver, we found a great racing driver. So that program went on for 10 years. We had at one point 13 drivers that were gamers to start off with, racing in the real world. Motorsport is really, really expensive to get involved in. Just to buy one of those or go racing in a single-seater is hugely expensive. So you've got massive talents out there that will never be racing on a track. So we're going to find them in the virtual world, and on that program we funded them to make them into professional racing drivers, and now 4 or 5 of them are racing all around the world being paid to race. Unbelievable, really.
We set our games reviewer Simon Miller a tough task this week, asking him to come up with his favourite racing games of all time. He's done it though. Here he is.
So in at number 4 is Burnout Paradise. Now a lot of people may argue that Burnout Paradise isn't even the best Burnout game there is in the series, but those people would be wrong, and here's why. Now Burnout was always about just crashing your car, then crashing into a lot of other stuff and getting loads of points, and you could still do that in Burnout Paradise, but you had a massive open world on top of that, and that massive open world completely changed the franchise for the better, because not only could you still crash into stuff, but at a push of a button, you could start a race, you could start an event, or you could just drive around like it was a Sunday afternoon and enjoy the roads and enjoy the buildings around. It remains an incredible experience, even though it came out about 10 years ago. That's saying something. And coming in at number 3 is Project Gotham Racing 3, also known as PGR 3. Now, when you look back on it, at the time, nobody quite understood why this was so good. But here in 2017, it's a lot easier to make out. And the real reason was it came out alongside the Xbox 360. And not only did it take arcade racing and simulation racing and push them together and make them merge as one, but it showed everybody just how important Xbox Live was going to be. You didn't need to invite anybody around your house anymore. All you had to do was go online, and you had millions of players just waiting to play with you. Had great courses, had cars we all know and love like Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and you go back to it today and it still looks amazing to boot. Coming in at number 2 is Blur, the forgotten racing game of the genre, and that is such a shame because developer Bizarre Creations basically looked at something like Mario Kart and went, it's a bit too cartoony, it looks like it's for kids, why don't we make Mario Kart for adults? And that's what they did here. So it meant you could have a real intense type race, but you could also, if you want, fire a lightning bolt at your friend. And who doesn't want to do that? It is such a shame this didn't sell more copies, because it should have been a franchise that went on for years to excellence. And coming in at number 1, the best racing game of all time, or at least I think so, is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which came out on the Nintendo Switch in 2017. But here's the point. Mario Kart as a series is probably the best racing series ever. This is the latest one, and it's probably the best entry in the franchise because it is literally for everyone. It's accessible, but it has depth, so you can play it, I can play it, your mum can play it, your dad can play it, your grandma can play it, and everybody is going to have fun. And sure, if you want to take it a bit more seriously, you can do that, even if you are firing red shells at people. But the point is, Nintendo has made something here that's going to put a smile on everybody's face. I mean that too, everybody. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for Nintendo Switch, the best racing game ever made.
Well, that's it for this week's show here at Silverstone. Join us again for more Swipe next week. And in the meantime, follow us on Twitter @SkyNewsSwipe. Bye-bye.